Yeah. I spit raps like a heart attack, fast fatal heart impacts, past painful thoughts. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and past. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose. Pick a new silver excuse, I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember, you're just freaked out. Get ready for defeat now, I'm gonna make you bleed out. Listen on repeat now and weed out all the weak now. Get up and make a change, don't remember yesterday. If you got something to say, speak your mind before your grave. Cause your life is yours to save, ain't nobody gonna change. Everybody stays the same, so be different, make a name.
Hello and welcome into the University Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Larson, and joining me today is the one and only Devi Jake. He is the newest Undroppables understudy, and he has been helping me out on the Devi side of things here at UND, and I'm super excited to have him on the show. Welcome in.
Thanks, Kyle. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, you've done a great job with your weekly article, the Frosh Report, and so we're bringing up the, roundup on the podcast.
Awesome. I love it. I'm here for it. Let's talk some talented freshmen.
Oh yeah, we got plenty of big risers and a few massive surprises coming out of the 3 stars. And then following that up, we're going to talk about some of these 2024/2025 class members, depending on how you calculate that. Basically the incoming college freshmen. Just hit on those for a little bit. And then we're going to talk about some of our most anticipated bowl games coming up this month and next month. And so let's get right into it. I know you lovingly call these guys the diaper dandies, so I had to incorporate that one.
I do. That's a Dick Vitale classic. I've had a couple of people reach out to me even like, what the hell is a diaper dandy? And I guess showing my age a little bit there. It's the Dickie V, Dipsy Doo Dunkaroos, talented diaper dandies.
I remember that from the NCAA 2010 basketball game I used to play all the time.
Yes. Awesome.
But we'll do it by position. And the first one, of course, is the quarterback position. Me and Alfred talked about these guys quite a bit at the beginning of the season. Some of his priors were correct, some of them were not. And one of those guys where most of us, including myself, kind of struggled to rank him high enough was Oklahoma's Caleb Williams. He actually was the number 2 quarterback in the class, the number 1 quarterback before Ewers reclassified. So 24/7 liked him. All those guys liked him. Some members of the Devi community, like myself, not so much.
I think maybe I've been drinking a little bit too much of that Kool-Aid because I remember being lower on him as well coming into the season.
Yeah, I mean, it just looked like tools and no, polish yet. But apparently it only took Lincoln Riley, 3 months to get that polish.
Yeah, absolutely. And he absolutely looked the part. He took over for Rattler and led that crazy comeback against Texas. Even in a game where he maybe wasn't at his best in the last game of the season against Oklahoma State, he's still making absolutely insane throws that only NFL players can make. He's, in my mind, without a doubt, the number 1 quarterback in the class, right behind Bryce Young for QB2 overall in Devi for me right now. I love the kid, and he was a known rusher coming in, and I think most of his questions were around his not just his arm strength, but his accuracy, and he had over 60% accuracy his first year. I can't rave about him enough personally.
Yeah. And I mean, the biggest storyline, of course, for Caleb Williams is his head coach, Lincoln Riley, leaving the Oklahoma program to head for California and USC. But now we have Brent Venables, obviously an established defensive coordinator, great few years run at Clemson, taking over the program, an Oklahoma guy himself. But he brought in Jeff Lebby as his offensive coordinator from Ole Miss. Do you think Lebby can help Williams continue his growth?
Absolutely. I think that Caleb does end up staying at Oklahoma. I've seen a number of places, at least immediately after Riley jumped ship, predicting that he would follow suit and go to USC or possibly look to transfer out. I think Lebby was a lights out hire for them. We saw what he did for Corral at Ole Miss this most recent season, and there's no doubt in my mind that the offense, going against weaker Big 12 defenses with more weapons and more talented recruits basically across the board than Ole Miss has, I think it's going to be a lot of fun in Norman.
Absolutely. I mean, hopefully my guy Eric Gray can get involved in that.
Damn him.
But with Lincoln Riley leaving and going to USC, he does step into a situation with another freshman quarterback, and that is, of course, Jackson Dart. He was the 24/7 composite number 10 quarterback in the class and a 4-star. He was somebody that actually myself and many others were higher on than 24/7. So seeing him, have a couple of good games in there was pretty encouraging. Obviously, he made his first stint against Washington State, where Keaton Slovis went down, and he came in, led a spirited comeback, got injured himself, but played through and finished the game with a W. However, missed a few games after that injury, took the starting job when he came back, though, and only went 1-4. Maybe that's his fault. Maybe that's the interim head coach. Obviously, they were going through a time of changes there. So what's your take on Mr. Dart?
Love Dart. You bring up the Washington State game. I believe he set a USC freshman record for yards in that game. I think that a lot of his kind of maybe not as great play since coming back from the injury is probably injury related. I'm completely speculating there. I'm not in the know on that, but that's kind of what it feels like to me. I saw the UCLA game where he went over 300 yards again. He's over 60% accuracy. I love the kid. I'm glad he gets to work with Riley. I think that's a home run hire for him. We all know what Riley's done for Mayfield and Hurts and even Rattler and Williams. So no reason in my mind that Dart won't be the next in line. He's 6'3", 215, and decent frame. I don't think his size is gonna limit his upside in the pros.
Yeah, another Corner Canyon from Draper, Utah guy. They've just been spitting out quarterbacks recently. I mean, Zack Wilson, obviously the biggest guy, just joining the NFL. Jackson Dart this year, and then Devin Brown, the 4-star committed to Ohio State this season. So quite the pedigree out of high school, showing off his talents in his first year in LA. Obviously, gaining Lincoln Riley is usually a plus for most offensive players.
Yes.
And then our biggest surprise at the quarterback position definitely came in Tennessee, where Memphis lost Grant Gannell, the transfer from Arizona, who was one of the greatest high school players in Texas football history, but not a great college player. On the other hand, Gannell's been struggling.
It's been rough for him. Absolutely. I thought even his freshman year was somewhat encouraging, but now I think it's going to be, if he transfers out, it'll be his 4th school, I believe. So not, it doesn't say anything great about you or anyone who's in their 4th school in 4 years. Something's up there. I love Seth Hennigan, though. I'm excited to talk about him. 3-star recruit. but he's got a lot of tools. I watched him a bunch this year. He has great pocket awareness. He's already calling audibles at the line. Makes big time throws. Reads defense as well. I love him. They trusted him to throw the ball a lot. He had top 10 in the country for passing attempts as a true freshman. I think sky's the ceiling for him. It hurts losing Calvin Austin, who I don't think is coming back. It's hard to tell with everyone and the type of eligibility, but yeah, I believe I saw that he had accepted an invite to the Senior Bowl, if that is in any way binding. I'm not sure.
He's not playing in the bowl game either.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's probably a decent indicator that he's gone. But yeah, I love Seth. I love Seth, and I think he's going to grow. And he, down the stretch, he didn't seem to lean on Austin anywhere near as much as he did early in the season, and still had good results. So I like his ability to continue to do so even without Austin next year.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, the weapons aren't completely dry. Brandon Thomas is still in that backfield. Had a great season this year.
Yeah, I think Ivory is another wide receiver they have who's pretty good and seemed to have good rapport with Hennigan as well.
And obviously, him starting like almost every game as a freshman, I think he was injured a few, is usually a good sign for these guys. It means that their talent is shining through early on. However, that success did come on a Group of 5 team in Memphis. Do you think that will lead NFL scouts to any conclusions?
It's going to be tough sledding for him. I haven't heard anything about him wanting to transfer out, although it would not surprise me. I think he'd be a decent addition to a lot of P5 rosters. But yeah, coming from the G5, it's always an uphill battle. There are exceptions, but you've got the odds stacked against you. If it was me, I would be looking to transfer out. Same with the Houston running back, Alton Mccaskill. I'm kind of surprised that he's not looking to transfer. I know he had P5 offers and chose Houston over them. I know that's his hometown, but still, I think business decision-wise, it makes the most sense to try and transfer to a P5 school, a la Kanata Mumpfeld.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think it's one thing to choose a school, even when you have Power 5 offers versus, the Akron being your only choice in terms of Mumpfield. Yeah, but I mean, we've seen plenty of guys from the Group of 5 succeed, whether that be, like a Josh Allen or any kind of guys like that. So
I still have hope for Zack Wilson. That may discredit me completely, but I'm still holding hope.
Hey, he's still in the intro. I mean, I think I might have to redo that before we get fully into the off season. But we're there. And last but not least, those were the main quarterbacks, that we wanted to talk about. But was there any other of those freshman guys that stuck out to you?
JJ McCarthy, I'm super excited about. Every time it seemed like he touched the ball, great things happened. He had a bunch of touchdowns, rushing touchdowns, big time throws. I am super excited about JJ McCarthy. You jotted down here Tyler Buckner. I was less enthused about him than I had been coming into the season. I think that Notre Dame kind of gave him the short end of the stick and put him in a lot of bad situations against good defenses when they were down. And it just seemed like every time I watched him play, he was kind of on his back. Not doubting the talent's there, but maybe I just picked the wrong games to watch. I like the kid from USF, Timmy McLean. I don't know if he has much pro potential, but he seems like he'll be fun for CFF for a few years to come here. I was disappointed that Drake May seemingly was not the backup in UNC. They ended up going to him a little bit during the blowout against an FCS team, I believe it is, the last week of the season. but he should have been starting that game. I don't remember what the kid ahead of his name is off the top of my head right now, but I understood him being the backup during game time, like important games, but this one was a cupcake, and why not put Drake May out there? But
now, sometimes you got to reward the guys who are sticking around.
That's a point. That is a fair point.
Yeah, and then what about Sam Heward in Washington?
Yeah, so what the Indiana kid just transferred there. Yeah. R.I.P. Sam Heward was short and fun.
I don't know about that.
You think he'll beat out?
I think there's always a chance. I mean, Michael Penix, had one good season. Not so great this year, but I mean the one thing. Yeah, the one thing to consider, though, is that one good season did come with Kalen DeBoer as his offensive coordinator, who's now the head coach at Washington. So, yeah, something to watch. It'll be interesting to me to see what Heward does in terms of transferring or not. Obviously, he is a double legacy to Washington, as his dad and uncle are both esteemed quarterbacks from that university. So I think he might stick around even if he has to wait another year, but we'll see.
I hope so. I like the kid, and I have a few shares on various teams, so I hope he pans out. I'm just not holding my breath. Yeah,
I mean, he was I liked him fine. I mean, that was basically my analysis was he's fine. Like he's not a plus runner or anything, and I mean he makes decent throws. He's your prototypical pocket guy. And then next up, we'll move on from the quarterback position and over to running back. And there's one very obvious guy here.
Travion Henderson.
Yeah, obviously the number one running back in the class, which obviously means he's a 5-star, and he's absolutely proved that ranking correct.
Yeah, absolutely. 19 touchdowns. Was that a freshman record at Ohio State, I believe? Came in as the number one ranked running back and absolutely delivered. I've seen him going above Dijon Robinson in a couple of Devy mock drafts that I've been a part of. He's walked the walk, talked the talk, over 20 catches. Super productive. I don't recall him having a game where he really struggled. He was pretty much automatic, beat out, talented players in front of him. Who's the guy that Felix Sharp loved?
Mayan Williams.
Yeah, Mayan Williams. And
he's good. I mean, Mayan can transfer almost anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And Henderson, banished them all to the shadow realm. So hard to argue against what he's done, and super exciting player, and can't wait to see what else is in store.
Yeah, a weekly fixture in the Frosh report, it seemed.
Yeah, it's just basically stopped putting him in the main featured section because it was just the same thing every time. Like, this guy is amazing. So I just basically reserved a blurb for him at the end of every week.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's proved so much already that he would be the RB1 if he came out in this class as a freshman.
Yeah, I think so too.
Would you? So you mentioned him and Dijon Robinson. Which guy do you have first?
I'm always a sucker, so I'd maybe go Henderson, and it seemed like Robinson maybe tapered off a little bit at the end and then got hurt. So I still love Robinson. I think he's an absolute stud, but I'll go with the shiny new toy and take Henderson.
I'm right there with you. And then our next guy was actually the number 2 running back in the composite, Clemson's Will Shipley. He was, really, really good when he was healthy. The issue was he didn't stay healthy much.
Yeah, I hated that for him. It was nice because then Phil Mafa got to shine a bit and show his stuff as well. Another talented true freshman running back. But yeah, Will Shipley was great. He's basically the only thing going for the Clemson offense in a lot of weeks. He basically single-handedly helped them win the Florida State game. I don't think they win that game without him, absolutely dominating. I love the kid. I saw a few places before the season where Cam Wheaton and Donovan Edwards and the Texas A&M kid LJ Johnson all going ahead of Shipley, and thought that was ridiculous at the time, and it's definitely proven to be the case. Will Shipley is the RB2 in the class for me, without a doubt. Braylon Allen's close, but I give me Shipley.
Yeah, I mean, Donovan Edwards, you just reminded me, has been great this season. Somebody I forgot to put on the show sheet just out of, pure forgetfulness on my part.
And the most impressive part about Donovan Edwards is finding a way to shine despite Haskins and Corum ahead of him in the depth chart. They found a way to get their best players the ball, and that resulted in a game where he had like 11 catches and 170 yards. Kudos to him. Cream rises to the top, and I think Donovan Edwards is definitely a riser.
Yeah, what was really impressive was that receiving work as a freshman. And Hassan Haskins accepted his Senior Bowl invite either today or yesterday, so open it up for him.
Hopefully. Although I saw the Arizona kid was flirting with the idea of transferring. Tranum was flirting with the idea of transferring to Michigan, which I would not like for any party involved. I like Tranum, just not there.
Yeah, for sure. Back to Shipley, though, just real quick. Obviously, Tony Elliott, the offensive coordinator, moved on to Virginia. Some may say that's greener skies for Clemson, considering how poor this offense played.
Yeah, well, so they, I think, promoted someone from within, if I'm not mistaken. Right?
Quarterback coach.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. It's been a long time since Dabo's bought anyone in from the outside. So are the problems that afflicted Tony Elliott just symptoms of, dead wood within whatever's going on there in Clemson? I think a lot of maybe their deficiencies from after those Deshaun Watson teams were kind of masked up when you have Trevor Lawrence, who's, generational quarterback who's able to kind of hide some of those blemishes. And now I think they're maybe starting to show. And yeah, I agree that in theory, losing Tony Elliott should be probably a positive for them, although happy for him to get a head coaching job out of it. I'm not sure that the next guy in line is going to be a whole lot different philosophically.
Yeah, it is Brandon Streeter, who was serving as the passing game coordinator and quarterbacks coach, which passing game not so great in Clemson last year. However, he does have some offensive coordinator experience, some play calling experience at Liberty and Richmond, so we'll see. I mean, there's not much more to go down for the Clemson offense.
It's true. It was not a good year. It was not.
And they're still 9-3. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. They should have lost a couple of those games, but good on them for toughing it out and getting the wins.
Yeah, I mean, it'll also come down to how the replacement for Brent Venables does, because he was a star for them.
Absolutely. And Dabo's done the whole we don't bring in transfers thing, which is just absurd in today's game. I think he'll end up walking that back and changing that policy if they want to, not die a quick death.
And they could use a certain wide receiver we just talked about, Kanata Mumfield would be massive for that offense.
And he's not from too far away from there. But wasn't meant to be.
We'll see. And then our next running
is just committed to Mississippi. Ole Miss.
Committed?
Yeah, I believe so. I could be mistaken, but I think I saw that.
I saw the offer came. That would be huge. We're trying to find news live on stream here.
Sorry, I may be misinformed.
I think it's an offer. Yeah, it's just an offer for now.
Okay.
However, that would be a great spot for him, considering Dontario Drummond is off to the NFL.
Indeed. And I think someone else that Mississippi is going to be in on who we'll maybe touch on in a minute, Dion Smith, I think makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah. Hopefully they can find a quarterback before all this is done as well.
Yes.
Obviously, we heard Rattler a possibility and then Dylan Gabriel a possibility, but it does not seem to be coming to fruition. I'm hoping for the FCS incarnate word transfer Cameron Ward myself.
Yeah. But I'm great.
Yeah. Okay, our next running back, Wisconsin's Braylon Allen. He's the number 25 running back for 24/7's composite rankings. Jalen Berger was the guy expected to take the load in that offense. However, some off-the-field issues kept him out of the coach's, good graces. And so he's transferred to Michigan State now. So Braylon Allen, full control of this backfield. This season he posted 1,100 rushing yards, 12 touchdowns, and just 6 receptions for 37 yards. How do you break down Allen?
Love Allen. He's a mammoth of a human being, cut in the Derrick Henry mold. Almost runs as fast. Everyone's harping on his age, which is probably the most impressive thing. He's only 17 years old. He's still only 17. I think he turns 18 in the middle of January. He rattled off 7 games in a row of over 100 yards. He was playing behind Maluzzi for a bit, who got hurt, but even when he was there, he looked the more impressive runner to me. I'd like to see him get more involved in the passing game. He didn't put up a goose egg, which was nice. I think 5 or 6 catches for him there. Was he raw? Yeah, I think he is a little raw, but he's super young and he's a true freshman. I don't get the knock on a young true freshman for being unpolished. I think he's got plenty of time to shore up a lot of that footwork and a lot of that other stuff. He seems to have good instincts. He seems to have good vision. I love the kid. Rumble, young man, rumble. I'm here for him.
Yeah, and Wisconsin, definitely a team that does well cleaning up those little bits in their running backs for sure. And then last but not least, our, kind of breakout guy at running back was Jarquez Hunter for Auburn. He was the 44th ranked running back coming into the season. Obviously, Auburn also has, great running back in Tank Bigsby, who's taking the most of the carries. However, Hunter came in and spelled him very efficiently, looking at 6.9 yards per carry, 576 yards on 84 attempts. Also adding 3 touchdowns and 12 receptions on top of that. When I wrote this sheet, I got really excited because Tank Bigsby was in the portal for about 15 minutes in terms of portal time.
Yeah, but I was excited about that too. Again, not meant to be, like you're about to say, Tank Bigsby is coming back to Auburn.
A big get for the Auburn coaching staff. Not great for those of us who have Jarquez Hunter on our C2C teams. But, Tank Bigsby, so good. He likely will be declaring for the draft next year. So Hunter, if he stays at Auburn, will have the opportunity to lead that backfield in 2023. Do you think he can seize that opportunity and be one of the top guys in his class?
Oh, yeah, I absolutely do. I agree with you having him in the top 5. He's, top 5 or 6 for me right now. The first month of the season or first 6 weeks even, I believe his yards per carry was up at like 9.5 yards per carry. He kind of tapered off a little bit towards the end of the year, but still was absolutely relevant. I remember him getting a huge run in the fourth quarter of a game to help them come back.
I want to say it was Penn State.
Yeah, it might have. Yeah, I think it was the Penn State game. Yeah, you're right. so clearly the coaching staff has faith in him to put him in the game in those situations. I have a special place for him in my heart because he was one of the first people I wrote about in the Frosh report. So thankful that he wasn't just a flash in the pan and has continued to look great throughout the season. I would not be surprised to see him eat a good chunk of Tank Bigsby's workload next season. I don't know what they're going to do for quarterback. Bo Nix just announced he's transferring.
TJ Finley.
Yeah, the LSU kid, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not in love with that, but so I think they're going to have to lean on the run game quite a bit. Yeah, wheels up for Jarquez. Good on him.
Yeah, and one other thing that was good for him this offseason, even if Bigsby wasn't transferring, his fellow backup, Sean Shivers, actually transferred away to Illinois. Shivers was basically a 0 in the rushing attack, but he did have 22 receptions that Hunter can hopefully walk into a little bit.
Absolutely, and I think that Shivers' decision to leave is directly because of the performance and the nod that the coaching staff kind of gave to Hunter workload-wise during the season. And like you said, Hunter can catch as well. He had over 10 catches his freshman year, and no reason in my mind he can't kind of fill that Shivers third down back role as well.
Yeah, because it's something that they don't really ask Tank to do. So obviously they need someone else to do that for them. And then those were our main running backs, but were there any other guys who caught your eye this season?
Devin Neal out of Kansas. He completely locked down that backfield. I know they just bought in Sevion Morrison, but I'm not overly impressed with Morrison from his time at Nebraska. And I think that Neal will treat him just as he has the other backup Kansas running backs and not let him see the ball at all. He looked really good. I like the kid from Illinois. I think Josh McCray. I think I have that right. He huge guy as well, similar size to Braylon Allen, and looked great there despite having some competition in front of him. I mentioned Alton Mccaskill. I do still think that he should transfer out. I think he's supremely talented as well, and kind of everyone in C2C circles. The thought was, draft McCaskill now. He's going to play behind some talented people in Houston for a year, and then the backfield will be his. And he barely waited, 2 weeks before he was having multiple touchdown games. Continued to do that for the majority of the season. So, love Alton Mccaskill as well. Yeah,
and I did want to touch on Neal real quick. The biggest thing that, for me, in terms of his career, is playing for Lance Leipold. I mean, we saw Jarrett Patterson absolutely crush in that system in Buffalo, and Neal's not an amazing pass catcher, but he's better than Patterson, who obviously posted probably negative receptions in his career.
Yeah, absolutely. The last year he was at Buffalo, Kevin Marks, I think even 2 years in a row, Kevin Marks might have had over 900 yards, in tandem with Jarrett Patterson. So Devin Neal seeing 90% of that backfield workload and all that production, hopefully going to continue to go to him.
Yeah. I mean, Kansas as a football program, not really someone you tend to watch, but I really like Leipold as a head coach, and I am definitely keeping my eye on those guys out there.
Me too. And they beat Texas, and they were competitive against Oklahoma. Arrows up out there in Kansas.
Yeah, and I mean that success will always help you recruit a little better. And then moving on to our pass catchers for the freshmen of this year. And there's, just like running backs, there's one guy who sticks out among the rest.
Absolutely. Texas's Xavier Worthy, nicknamed Zay. He was a top 10 recruit or top 10 wide receiver recruit coming in, longtime commit to Michigan, flipped to Texas. I'm sure Michigan would love to have him back. But yeah, almost 1,000 yards receiving, 12 touchdowns. Absolutely blew every advanced metric that I saw out of the water at a historical rate, on par or better than Julio Jones in a lot of advanced metrics. He was special. Sky's the limit for him. I think that the Devy community seems to be a little low on him compared to where I think he should be. I think he should be a top 5 or 6 player, but I've seen him going, back end of the first, early second, which feels pretty late for me for someone who just put up the kind of season that he did.
You are preaching to the choir, my guy. I'm a slow person in 100-yard rushes, so I always end up in the back half of, these Campus Canton mocks. And Worthy has ended up being an auto pick for me. I got him at 1.10, and I got him at 1.9. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, all over him, trying to get, him and then one of like Downs or Addison or Johnston on the turn and just absolutely dominate the receiving core right off the bat.
Absolutely. And on both sides, really, both have good shots of being in the league, and both are going to produce at high levels in college.
Yeah.
Addison.
Yeah. Worthy, that freshman season is in like best ever territory, 998 yards, 12 touchdowns. And then his yards per team pass attempt was 2.87. In terms of guys over 2.5, you're looking at Amari Cooper, T.Y. Hilton, Julio Jones, and Stephon Diggs as freshmen. Elite company. And I think Worthy was ahead of most of those 5 guys. I think he might have been third or second. So I'm all over that when I see that, for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of signal for good things to come. Absolutely.
Yeah, it would just help if, Steve Sarkisian could win some games.
They got Ewers coming in. That'll be awesome. I think that only, adding in one of the best college quarterbacks in the country is only going to help them.
Yeah, this is Texas went, the 6-6 this year, and now they're looking at having, the Debbie communities like wide receiver 3, running back 2, and quarterback 3.
Right. Yeah, no real excuses if they don't make some noise next year.
Yeah, for sure. And then our next pass catcher is LSU's Jack Beck. He was came into the college scene as a tight end, but made the switch to wide receiver before the season started. He was a guy that I didn't really know about, but I was in a draft in like the final rounds, and I texted Alfred and I was like, hey, who should I draft in like the back end of a C2C? Who are some good freshmen to target? And he goes, Jack Beck and I think Malachi Thomas maybe for no, it was the Boston College kid, Xavier Coleman. But yeah, I drafted Jack Beck because Alfred told me to, and I'm quite excited about it. He had 43 receptions for 489 yards and 3 touchdowns as a freshman. What's your take on Beck?
He, the LSU true freshman pass catching room was absolutely just absurd across the board. You got Dion Smith, you got Jack Beck, you got Neighbors, you've got Brian Thomas Jr., and Chris Hilton, who was hurt all year. Let me pause for 1 second to get these dogs to shut up.
Yeah, obviously, LSU always has big expectations. But that wide receiver room, lost a lot of talent in recent years. Jamar Chase, Terrace Marshall, Justin Jefferson, all leaving in the past 2 years, left a big hole, and they filled it with freshmen.
Yeah, and Beck was the lowest rated of the group, and he was third, I believe, in the country for true freshmen in targets, which speaks volumes. And it's not like any of the other freshman receivers have been slouches. They've all had big games and produced in their own right. So he's cutting his teeth in a very talented room and still rising to the top. Some people are still calling him a tight end. They kind of seem to split him out wide more often than I've seen him ever lined up inside. I think it's pretty safe to consider him a wide receiver, but still seeing a lot of places cling to that tight end position. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. But
I don't hate it for fantasy.
yeah, I agree. Absolutely. But yeah, I like the kid. Came out of nowhere and has just been balling. It's awesome.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that, tight end, wide receiver, like talk, just because these move tight ends are playing like 4 snaps in line in a game, whether it be like Mike Gesicki or Evan Ingram or even Kyle Pitts. And these guys get paid more as wide receivers. So it's probably in their best interest to be a wide receiver. But conversely, it's in the NFL team's best interest for them to be a tight end. So that's something that's been interesting me for a while, especially with Eric Gilbert transferring to Georgia and obviously switching to wide receiver, really ignited that thought in me. And then our big surprise at wide receiver was Washington State's Dijon Stribling. Washington State, not the air raid offense of past with Mike Leach. However, still throwing the ball around. And they have some guys. They have like a couple of 5th and 6th year guys in Travell Harris and Calvin Jackson Jr. However, Stribling still able to work out quite the role for himself. He had 42 receptions, 458 yards, and 4 touchdowns in his true freshman season. How do you feel about him?
Love Stribling as well. He was the second in targets for true freshmen at 72, I believe. I think the 3 we have talked about are the top 3 in the country in most targeted freshmen. Stribling's looked great. Like you said, 2 pretty talented and productive players in front of them. I love Travell Harris, but at least one of them is gone next year. I think both should be gone. Again, the damn COVID eligibility always throws me through a loop. But I don't see why he can't be the wide receiver in that wide receiver 1 in that offense for years to come. Jayden Delora is definitely talented and definitely at least going to be there 1 more year. I think he'll probably end up staying the full 4 years, assuming he doesn't get in trouble again. Sorry, Jayden. But yeah, I love Stribling. I think he's awesome. I think he's been a revelation. I didn't even realize he was this lowly rated before seeing the show notes. But yeah, wide receiver 262 in the 247 composite wide receiver rankings. So hell of a rise. Love to see it, and kudos to him.
Yeah, Jayden Delora, if you're going to drink underage, don't drive. Don't drive. If you're going to drink at all, don't drive. Come on, people. So any other wide receivers who stuck out to you?
Yeah, Bo Collins. He's probably one of my favorite wide receivers in the class, probably, wide receiver 2 or 3. He went to the same California high school, St. John Bosco's, as DJ Uyunglele. And they were teammates there, and that they picked up right off that rapport pretty early. He, maybe took a couple of weeks getting going, but finished the season super strong, especially once Justin Ross was out. I love Bo Collins. I think he was second in catches on the team, third in yards, over 400 yards, I believe, or maybe it was just under like 380 or something like that. But one of my favorite wide receivers in the class, and I expect big things for him.
And then you touched briefly on Dion Smith. I was wondering what you saw there.
Love Dion Smith. He would be another one who I have in my top 5 wide receivers in the class. He absolutely mossed someone on a touchdown catch early in the season. He is in the transfer portal, which is interesting. He's from the state of Mississippi, which it is notoriously hard to get prospects out of the state of Mississippi who are from there. So it makes a lot of sense to me that he would go home either to an Ole Miss or Mississippi State. This is not, a situation where someone, is transferring because they weren't good enough. He's definitely my favorite of their wide receivers right now, and he's going to be my favorite wide receiver in whatever wide receiver room he ends up in, most likely.
Yeah, and obviously if he does move back to his home state of Mississippi, there's a couple of high-flying offenses out there these days. And then, so that does it for our 2021 freshman class.
One more that we didn't have on the sheet that we need to mention. Brock Bowers, tight end for Georgia. Absolutely absurd. Easily the tight end 2 in Debbie right now. Possibly the tight end 1, depending on who you ask. I think he's definitely more athletic than Mayer, sorry. I love Brock Bowers. Georgia's wide receiver room is, stacked to the teeth with 4-star recruits, and he led the team in catches, yards, and touchdowns, all as a true freshman. Fought off, talented mountain of a man, Darnell Washington. Eric Gilbert was nowhere to be seen. Just absolutely insane season. Didn't matter who was throwing the ball for Georgia. Found a way to produce in big games, small games. Love the kid.
Yeah, stacked with 4-star recruits who have yet to do anything.
They have not necessarily panned out, but the talent is there. I think that a lot of people are still bought in on Adonai Mitchell, Jermaine Burton. I don't know.
Marcus Rosemy, Jack Saint.
Yeah.
I just love that his name is Jack Saint.
That is a good name.
Obviously, it would help if Georgia had a competent passing game, but
Brock Bowers didn't need one.
Anyway, moving on from last year's class to this year's class, early signing day is tomorrow. Plenty of guys signing tomorrow who we already know what schools they're going to. However, we did want to highlight some of the guys who still haven't technically committed yet. And the first of those is Kevin Coleman. He's a top 5 wide receiver in the composite out of St. Louis. And who's he picking between here?
So this one looks like it'll come down to Florida State and Miami, with the news that Florida State offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham is most likely going to be taking the same position at Oregon, where he'll have full autonomy of the offense. It seems like that ship has sailed and that he's likely going to end up at Miami. He's not actually announcing the team he's picked until whatever All-Star game he's a part of. But he is actually supposed to sign tomorrow. He was a strong Oregon lean, but once Cristobal moved to Miami, they set up an official visit for last weekend, and that seems to be the word right now, is that he's likely going to end up at Miami.
I hate that. I hate that signing and not saying anything stuff. I think Eric Gilbert did that as a freshman too, and it might have been Darnell Washington actually. I think it was Washington, but yeah, he was like Tennessee was like 4th on his list, so I was praying, but yeah.
Can always
yeah.
hope.
I mean, he played with Harrison Bailey in high school. Maybe they both would have failed here. Who knows? And then next up, we have Shaz Preston, who is also a top 5 wide receiver in the composite, coming out of Louisiana. Who's he got?
So always hard to pull a kid from Louisiana out of LSU's grasp, but it's between Alabama and LSU, and I think Bama actually gets the nod. They lead as far as crystal balls go. Shaz is supposed to actually announce on ESPN tomorrow, so we'll actually get the resolution there. Bama's got an insanely good class, and they just signed the Florida decommit Isaiah Bond, or he committed to them. They haven't signed anyone yet. But yeah, I don't think that'll affect Preston's spot in the class. I think he ends up at Bama.
Yeah, they have a couple of other 4-star wide receivers going there too, and Aaron Anderson and Kobe Prentice. So obviously they really pushed wide receiver talent last year with, if I remember correctly, all 3 of the top 3 in the 24/7 composite. If not
3 of the 4, I think. Egbuka for Ohio State, I think, was 1, but they were all up there.
Yeah. So interesting to see them, pushing the position hard again this year. But I mean, those Alabama guys, they really only have to show out for 1 year to get the draft's attention. Moving on, we have a running back in Javonte Barnes, who is a 4-star out of Las Vegas. What's going on there?
So he seemed like a heavy Oklahoma lean. Then Riley left. He tweeted out, as long as DeMarco Murray is still at Oklahoma, that they're in the mix for him. So a lot of people thought maybe he would stick that out. Florida State was also in the mix and considered in second place. But he just, I think this last weekend, visited USC and Lincoln Riley. The crystal balls on 247 all seem to still say Bama, but I think those are
Oklahoma.
I think they even say Bama, actually. Do they say Oklahoma? Maybe I could be wrong, but I think
it says 100% Oklahoma for me.
If you're looking at it right now, then yeah, I trust you say.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that those are going to end up wrong. I think that he'll end up choosing USC and going with Riley. And I think Dillingham going to Oregon completely rules Florida State out. I think he was the primary contact there.
Interesting, to say the least. Next up, we have Jake Johnson, the tight end. He is the tight end 1 in the class, I believe. And he is, famous for being Max Johnson's brother and being Brad Johnson's son by relation.
Absolutely.
What's going on with his recruitment?
It's not a whole lot to really go off of. I don't believe he visited anywhere last weekend, and he only decommitted from LSU the week before that. Florida State was hoping to get in. It seems like they might be a package deal, wanting to go together. They both, Max announced his intention to enter the portal, and hours later, Jake decommitted. So the thought there is that they're hoping to go to the same school again. But my guess, the kind of tea leaves that I'm reading and the things I'm seeing seem to think that the Texas A&M are going to be a safe bet to get his signature tomorrow. I believe he's still signing tomorrow. Would not surprise me.
Yeah, 247 does still have him signing tomorrow, but no crystal balls from the last 6 months. So they don't seem to know what's going on. They still think he's going to LSU. But yeah, it did seem to be down to South Carolina and A&M. Obviously, South Carolina seemed to pivot to Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner. So we'll see about A&M. Obviously, Weidermeyer is coming out in this class, most likely. So plenty of room there to succeed as tight end. And then last but not least, one guy I kind of just added to the list pretty shortly before the show is Justin Williams, a 4-star running back from Dallas, Georgia. He's more of a power back, but he has some decent speed, running an 11.4 100-meter dash. He's between Tennessee and Auburn. It seemed like he might really be considering Auburn because of Tank Bigsby possibly leaving, and Harsin kind of communicating that. But without Bigsby leaving, it seems like he might be headed towards Knoxville, Tennessee to play for the Volunteers. Obviously, they already have another 4-star back in Dylan Sampson, but the two would be pretty good complements, as Sampson's more of a small speed back, and Williams would be like a pounder. So interesting name to watch there tomorrow as well. And then, we couldn't talk about these 25 guys without talking about the guys who are already committed, because obviously those are most of the big names. So let's start with the quarterback. Who are your faves here?
So my QB1 right now is Drew Aller. He's a big boy, 6'4", 230 pounds from Ohio. He's got a cannon of an arm. He throws with anticipation and timing. Almost, Mahomes or, Big Ben, Aaron Rodgers-esque, where he's great at making plays with different arm angles, different balance, off his back leg, under duress. He's always going to find a way to make that play. And he's committed to Penn State, and super excited to see what he does there. Unfortunate, in my opinion, that Clifford's coming back, but everyone seems to think that'll be good for Aller to have a year to learn under him and not get thrust into the fire.
Or 5 games.
Yeah.
once they get frustrated.
My second favorite quarterback in the class is Cade Klubnik, committed to Clemson. He's the starting quarterback for Westlake High School. He's the number 2 high school in the nation. He's currently the 247's number 1 composite quarterback. Love the kid. I think he's got bright future ahead of him. And if DJ Uyunglele continues to falter, it would not surprise me to see Klubnik get some burn early on next year. My third favorite is definitely a homer pick, AJ Duffy, committed to Florida State. He's a 4-star. He got invited to the Elite 11, had kind of a slow start out there, so people started writing him off, but he actually came on really strong and had a good Elite 11, in my opinion. He hurt his finger towards the end of the year this year and shut down his season, I think, early November. But he seems super locked in at Florida State. He signs tomorrow. He's from out in Cali, actually, and I believe he's signing at his Rancho Verde, I believe, high school is where he's going to be signing tomorrow. But should be for the Noles.
Yep, I haven't, quite ranked all these guys, but I am pretty confident that Aller will be my QB1 as well. Really haven't picked a QB2 yet, but in that tier alongside Klubnik, I like Devin Brown going to Ohio State. Not the best landing spot, but I like his talent. And then, kind of an opposite guy where I really love his landing spot is Tavin Jackson. Also a bit of a homer pick as he's choosing Tennessee. But, we've seen the Heupel offense, just pump out numbers no matter who the quarterback is. So I think Tennessee's a huge, a great position to be for a quarterback in terms of future college production.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then my kind of, under the radar guy for me at quarterback is Luther Richardson, going 3-star and the number 61 quarterback, but he's headed to Cincinnati. I think he was also an Elite 11 guy. Elite 11 finals from Nashville, Tennessee. It'll be fun to see him possibly, take over for Ritter.
Yeah, he is a good name to know. I remember there was actually kind of quite a bit of fanfare when he committed to Cincinnati, which prompted me to look him up, and I was surprised that such a low-rated recruit was getting the amount of hype on Twitter that he was. But yeah, definitely a name to keep an eye on and someone I'm hoping does well.
Yeah, definitely also interesting that he made the Elite 11 finals, considering only, 5 3-stars in total made it there. So obviously
committed to a G5 school nonetheless. Well, I think his commitment to Cincinnati was after the fact, but yeah, still impressive. I agree.
Yeah, and Cincinnati barely a G5 anymore. If you're playing in the playoff, yeah. And then moving on to running backs, who you got as your top 3?
These 3 running backs, they're in my opinion pretty chalky for the top 3. They seem to be at least in most people's top 5. My number 1 is Branson Robinson, committed to UGA. He's the best rated recruit to leave the state of Mississippi since Cam Akers. He looks like he's like 30 years old. He's 5'10", 220 coming out of high school. Absolutely absurd specimen of a human. I like him to come in and produce right away. I think their backfield is going to thin out a little bit with James Cook will be gone. I think Zamir White will be gone. And if I'm Kendall Milton, I'm worried with Robinson coming in. I think he can make some noise right away.
It would be very nice to have a clear answer in the Georgia backfield.
Yeah, for sure. And then my next pick is Jayden Blue out of Texas. He's a track star in high school. He's got NFL size. He's from Houston, Texas. 247 has their scout gave the player comp for him, and they picked Jonathan Taylor as his comp. So who doesn't love Jonathan Taylor? Super excited about Jayden Blue. I think he'll end up living up to the hype. He seems pretty awesome. Next on the list is Nick Singleton, also committed to Penn State like Drew Aller. So that offense is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think they have a top 5 wide receiver committed as well. But Nick Singleton's from Reading, Pennsylvania. He's also a track and field star, and 247 has their comp player for him as Nick Chubb, which I love as a comparison for him. They're both stout bowling balls of running backs, and I'm super excited about Nick Singleton too.
Yeah, I'm definitely right with you with Branson Robinson and Jayden Blue. Definitely chalky as they come in terms of the top 2. And then the couple of guys that I'm really looking out for near the top are Gavin Sawchuk, committed to Oklahoma. You mentioned 24/7 player comps. His is Christian McCaffrey. That's obviously pretty fun. He really quick on tape and a bit of a home run hitter. And then the other guy I like comes out of Mater Dei in California, and that is Raleek Brown. Just recently committed to USC with Lincoln Riley. The one thing that worries me is his size. He is only 5'8", but pretty well built at 185 and fast as they come. I have an issue, and I really love short running backs who run really fast. So he's definitely someone that will end up pretty high for me.
I share your Raleek Brown love. He's a longtime Oklahoma commit and followed Lincoln Riley out to USC. He's electric, great at catching passes. I'm here for Raleek Brown hype.
And I'm sure our guy Tommy Moe is in love with him as well, since he
high
went
school.
to Mater. Yeah. Oh, don't we all do that though?
No, I go to a high school that didn't produce any NFL talent.
Oh well, we're a dime a dozen from my alma mater. We got T. Higgins, and that's about it.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, we have a 3-star in a 3-star running back this year who has yet to commit, but we'll see.
That's awesome.
And then moving on to a wide receiver, who you got out there?
All right, I'm going hot takey here, and everyone's going to groan with my selection for my wide receiver number 1, Travis motherfucking Hunter. Pardon my French there. Yes, he is listed as a cornerback, and he will definitely play on that side of the ball at Florida State. He's the best prospect in the nation so far. Last week he had 10 catches, over 150 yards and a touchdown in the 7A Georgia State championship game. That's, the highest classification, biggest schools, most talented rosters. And he's just been making people look silly all year. FSU's, Coleman's likely not coming to Florida State. It seems like Mortimer might be trending towards West Virginia. With Dillingham leaving, it seems like Micah Pittman will no longer want to transfer in. Tyrese Chambers and Florida State have already stopped talking. So there's a huge need in that wide receiver room, and it does not look like Florida State is doing a lot to fill that need, aside from bringing in Travis Hunter. And I really, really am hoping that he gets a chance on that side of the ball because the kid is truly special and has been making highlights on Twitter 7-7 and on Fridays for years now. Absolutely my favorite player in the class by far, not even close. My second pick is more traditional. I like Evan Stewart more than the St. Louis kid. I think Burden's the name. Evan Stewart's committed to Texas A&M. He's from Texas. I was hoping he was going to go to UT with Ewers and Worthy, but is not. I don't necessarily love the landing spot for him. Jimbo has not historically been good to freshman wide receivers. See
DeMoss.
Moose Jr. or Moose the Third, Musa Muhammad, his son. Even at Florida State, I can't name a productive wide receiver other than Rashad Green the entire time he was there. He does not get freshman wide receivers involved. So it'll be interesting to see if Evan Stewart kind of breaks that mold. I think he's talented enough to. I think he's, easily a top 3 wide receiver talent-wise in the class. I just don't necessarily love the landing spot for him. My third pick, just a shout out, isn't necessarily my wide receiver 3 in the class, but a cool prospect to know and that I'm only really familiar with because of a great Twitter follow, Recruiting Analytics, at RA Analytics. They use, camera, machine vision, computer vision to kind of use player tracking stuff to calculate game speed, athletic metrics in ways that, go beyond just general athletic testing. And they have him as their third or fourth most athletic wide receiver in the class coming into the season. He had a couple of big games, maybe not as many consistently as I would have liked, but he did have an 8-catch, 130-yard game about a month ago. Again, insanely athletic kid. He's projected to pick TCU, although I don't believe he's actually committed yet. But yeah, DJ Allen is a good name to know.
Was he playing quarterback this year?
No, I do not believe so. I think he did play some defense as well, though. But no, I think
his 24/7 stats have him throwing 109 pass attempts.
I could be mistaken. That is a lot of pass attempts.
He did have 59 receptions last year for what? This says 59 receptions for 1,316 yards and 17 touchdowns, which would be absolutely insane and would totally make sense if he's a great recruit. Yeah, definitely someone to watch there. And he's 5'11". Wide receivers under 6 feet. Perfect. I love them. Short kings. Hunter is definitely someone I'm watching as well. Will definitely be interesting to see if he makes that switch. But, do I really want to draft a Seminole? Do I really want to?
A cornerback, no less. See, that's why I'm loving it. I think in C2C leagues this summer, I think you'll be able to get him in like the late 20s, and no one's going to think twice, and you may even get conned on for drafting a cornerback.
There's so many ways to get burned here. You could have Lovasea Carroll, or you could have, Malik McClain.
I still have faith in Malik McClain. He had a promising year. He just couldn't put it all together. We're not exactly a high-volume passing offense with Jordan Travis under helm. I love Travis. He's one of my favorite Noel quarterbacks in the last 20 years. But
low bar.
Yeah, I guess so. Only 3 first-round picks to contend with. But I honestly do like him more than I like Ponder and more than I like DJ Manuel. I think he's better for the team than either of them were. Pre-shoulder injury Ponder may be different. That was pre-shoulder injury Ponder was good. Senior year Ponder was not.
So what I'm hearing is he's no Jameis Winston.
He's not a Jameis Winston. I will be lucky if I see another Jameis Winston in my life. I know a lot of people hope that we don't see another Jameis Winston for different reasons, and that's perfectly fair. But he was definitely a special quarterback for Florida State.
I actually do like Jameis Winston. I mean, got a lot of him at a discount in Dynasty, so hold
Yeah.
on. Some of the other guys I wanted to talk about, though, and you hinted at one of them, is Luffer Burden. Obviously, the number 1 wide receiver in the composite and the number 3 recruit in the composite. So definitely something to watch there. Interesting that he chose Missouri of all schools. That type of recruit can go wherever the heck they want. So big get for Eli Drinkwitz and his staff. I think I like Drinkwitz's offense when he was at App State. So I'll definitely continue to watch. And I mean, Connor Bazelak was putting up big numbers out there this year. So plenty of opportunity to succeed statistically for Burden in that Tigers offense. And then one of the guys I really like personally is Jordan Hudson from Garland, Texas. He was committed to SMU, but now is going to TCU, obviously following Sonny Dykes. He's 6'1", 180. And playing in Garland, Texas, it's basically like the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Great football played in that area of Texas. This season, he had 67 receptions for 1,141 yards and 22 receiving touchdowns, and he had a very similar stat line as a sophomore in 2019. A little lower in 2020, but I'm just assuming he played less games because of COVID and stuff. But
It's a new name for me, but someone I'll definitely keep an eye on. That's awesome.
Yeah, highly productive in Texas. Obviously, a 4-star and the 20th ranked wide receiver headed towards TCU. And then my other wide receiver I like is also coming out of Nashville, Tennessee, similar to Luther Richardson, and that is Barryon Brown. He's skinny and fast. Reminds me of like a Jalen Waddle type. He's headed to Kentucky despite having interest from Alabama and TCU as well. So big get for Kentucky, of course.
Big get. And they may hope to hold on to that offensive lineman too.
Yeah, for sure. I personally don't like seeing Kentucky succeed, but I will be rooting for Barryon Brown specifically. And obviously, they're losing a ton of production in Wan'Dale Robinson this offseason to the draft. And they brought in Tavion Robinson, I think, from Virginia Tech.
Yeah, they did.
As a transfer. So Barryon won't probably will not be asked to be the number 1 straight out of high school, but could be productive as a number 2 wide receiver. And, Will Levis flashed plenty as quarterback. And then one last guy that I really like, and this is morely due to his landing spot, which not always the best way to predict college success. But, I love the air raid offense. And Marquez Dorche is a 4-star wide receiver headed to Mississippi State. Obviously, you can't do the air raid any better than Mike Leach does it. And we saw that with the way that his offense ran this season. Dorche, pretty quick, 10.92 100-meter dash. His player comp on 24/7 is Quez Watkins. So home run hitter should be fun in that offense.
Any relation to Greg, do you know?
Oh, that's a good question. I can Google Marquez Dorche. I don't think so.
Not the most common last name.
No, it's not, but I'm not seeing anything. So I guess not. But yeah, interesting get for them as well, as he was a former Ole Miss commit. So switching sides there in Mississippi. Now, last but not least for our show today, we just wanted to hit on a couple of bowl games coming up this year. Obviously, we don't have a ton of time to be talking about like all the games, so I just put a couple that I thought would be really fun. Jake added one that he thought would be really fun. So the Fun Bowl games. The first of which for me was the Peach Bowl, obviously one of the big bowls, and it features number 10 Michigan State versus number 12 Pittsburgh. Obviously, the big storylines come from Kenneth Walker and Kenny Pickett. I don't think either has said whether or not they're playing. So,
yeah, I thought I saw that Pickett was not playing, but I could be mistaken. It would not be the first time, even during this show, that I've been wrong. But yeah, I'm excited for both. Kenneth Walker, didn't come out of nowhere, but transferred from Wake Forest. Had a good year at Wake Forest, but absolutely insane year this year from Michigan State. A little disappointed they didn't get him involved in pass game very much. I still believe he can catch. I know it's going to probably be a knock on his draft profile and when people are talking about him in dynasty rookie drafts, but I think he can catch. Cerebral player, sets up several moves in a row, tough runner. I love Kenneth Walker for sure.
So latest I see from 4 hours ago is still no decision on Kenny Pickett's bowl status.
I was mistaken.
So we'll see what happens there. I mean, either way, I still want to see if he's not playing, I want to see like how this Pittsburgh offense runs without him. Just because that's something that's kind of scary for me as somebody who's really in, because I'm really in on Jordan Addison as their wide receiver. So obviously their offensive coordinator moving on, Kenny Pickett moving on. I am a little concerned as for his situation there, but we'll see how we'll possibly see how it goes without Pickett. And then moving on from just those two big names, there's some other guys going into the draft that should be interesting to see as well. One of those is Jaden Reed, the wide receiver for Michigan State. I'm not sure if he's actually declared or not, but talented wide receiver, had some good production this year. And then Conor Hayward, also playing for Michigan State. He plays tight end in the Spartans offense, but will be playing fullback at the next level. So not really interesting for fantasy, but you can see him play. And then the tight end for Pitt, Lucas Kroll, he accepted an invite to the Shrine Bowl, so he's likely leaving this offseason. He's a big-bodied guy, definitely probably will catch a touchdown if Kenny Pickett plays. It seems he catches one every game. So he's someone to watch as well.
They also have my tight end, probably tight end 2 at this point for the 24 class, unless you count Jack Beck as a tight end. Gavin Bartholomew, the true freshman tight end. He, I think in his last regular season game had 5 catches, 50 yards, and touchdown. Was productive all season. Didn't just flash in a couple of games. Earned targets, throughout the year and found ways to get on the field. So I'm excited about his prospects moving forward, and hopefully he gets his chance to shine in the bowl game.
And you'll also get a chance to see Israel Abanaconda, the Pittsburgh running back, just an athletic specimen out there. Kind of failed to take over the backfield, but most of us who like Abanaconda are just hoping that's, coaching philosophy and not due to his skill, because, he looks great when he is out there.
He does. They also had true freshman Rodney Hammond Jr. at running back. I'm surprised you don't love him. 5'9", 175 pounds. He sounds right up your alley. But he played really well this year, averaged 5 yards a carry, and had several games with double-digit carries. Obviously, we've mentioned our love for Jordan Addison, just to kind of shine a light on how absurd he is. During the last 2 regular season games, he had something like 300 yards receiving, 6 touchdowns, and 25 catches in like a 2-game span. So absolutely absurd human being, and very excited about his NFL prospects. I have him flirting. I think I have him as my wide receiver 3 in the 23 class, behind JSN or behind Butte and JSN.
I'm more bullish. I actually have him as my wide receiver 2.
Who you have at 1, Butte?
Yeah, Butte. So hot take, Addison over JSN right here.
I love it. I'm here for it. I think you nailed it earlier when you said it's going to come down to how serviceable their QB play is next year. I think he's, talented enough to be kind of QB proof, but not sure just how that'll translate production wise.
Yeah, this year though, almost 1,500 receiving yards. Won the Bolitnikoff Award recently, so a huge year for him this year. If he keeps up the same semblance of that, sans Kenny Pickett, absolutely wheels up then. And then moving on to our next bowl game, we have the Trans Perfect Music City Bowl. A bit of a, I didn't even pick it, so I can't say it's a homer pick. But I'm a big Tennessee fan. I was kind of hoping to get out there, but I don't think it's going to happen for me.
I was going to ask, are you going?
Yeah, I'm visiting family that day, and tickets are like $100 anyway. So I'm not sure I would have been willing to put that up.
Yeah,
but what are the storylines to watch here?
Tennessee versus Purdue. Hendon Hooker, the transfer from Virginia Tech, had an absolutely incredible year. 31 touchdowns. I think 5 of them were on the ground, 26 passing. You got David Bell, the production monster at Purdue.
Who's not playing?
Oh, he's not going to play? Dang, I did miss that. That stinks for them.
Him and Karlaftis are not playing.
Gotcha. Aiden O'Connell coming back for year 6. I saw that he announced that. I'm not a huge Aiden O'Connell fan, but still thought that was worth mentioning. And then Cedric Tillman for the Vols, almost 1,000 yards receiving last year. Do you think there's any chance he declares this year, Kyle, or do you think he's a lock to come back?
I think he should declare. That's my opinion, but I don't think he will. After Hooker said he's coming back, I don't think Tillman will. But there were parts of the season where I was like, this guy's an NFL wide receiver. I mean, he put up 200 yards on Georgia, which is super impressive, but it took him till year 4 to do anything. So not someone I'm incredibly excited about, even with the rose-colored glasses of being a fan.
So were you surprised that no one came after your coach this offseason with all the high-profile vacancies?
No. Well, I mean, all of us got worried about Oklahoma right off the bat. Obviously, Josh Heupel is a alum, and a former coach. However, apparently that split wasn't very friendly when they did move on from Heupel. So apparently he's not the biggest fan of his alma mater anymore. And then not too worried about the rest of them. I mean, Tennessee is just up there with everyone else in terms of facilities and, recruiting abilities. So not incredibly concerned.
Man, I don't know. You've never had a Jimbo Fisher poach from you. I didn't think that was going to happen either, but.
Yeah, I mean, well, we are in the SEC, so no reason for anyone to leave for an SEC job.
Fair enough. Shots fired.
Yeah, but it'll definitely be fun to see him play one more time. Alongside him, you got Felis Jones Jr., the other wide receiver. He has declared for the draft, is playing in the Senior Bowl, but I believe he said he is playing in the bowl, so that's a good sign for us.
Evans is not playing, or
what's that?
Evans is not playing.
Tyon?
Yeah, didn't he transfer?
Oh no, he's transferred to. He's in Louisville now.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I did realize that. Read that. You're right.
Yeah,
Jaylen,
but yeah.
True freshman running back. Excited for him.
Yeah, but Felis Jones, obviously going to the draft. The one thing about him is he's a year 6 prospect. Played at USC for a few years before transferring. I think he'll actually get drafted, but I would not be excited about him as an actual wide receiver at all. He is an elite return man, however, I think. So I think he'll go in the 6th or 7th round. To some people's surprise, but he'll mostly be a return guy and a 5th string wide receiver. But yeah, Jalen Wright has had a couple of good games after Tyon Evans went down. He was really asked to fill in the second role. He's very fast, electric, and fun to watch. The other running back is Jabari Small. Not as fast, not as electric, but gets it done. So no complaints there. And, maybe Jalen Hyatt has a resurgence in this game. Who knows? He had a great season under Pruitt last year, but after the hype, he did not appear. Purdue, though, obviously with David Bell not playing in that game, not the best for them. However, Milton Wright is their second wide receiver. He is a pretty interesting guy, super athletic as well. So he will be fun to watch. And Tennessee's
tight end is good too.
Yeah. Tennessee's number 1 corner isn't playing because he's injured and going to the draft. So our second cornerback kind of sucks. So Milton Wright might be in for a big game. There was a clip of South Alabama against Tennessee, and Jalen Tolbert had our second corner, and he just had him going the wrong direction on a route. It was so bad. And then last but not least for our, fun bowl games that we have to watch, the Sun Bowl is a game that I'm really excited about. Also a homer pick because Washington State is my second favorite team. And then they're playing against Miami, the U, and that is on New Year's Eve, although it is at noon. So wake up early if you're on the West Coast. Not many big draft names in terms of this year. I mean, Miami has Charleston Rambo, the former Oklahoma Sooner wide receiver who is declared for the draft, so that'll be interesting.
Set the Miami record for receptions in a season with 72 this year.
Yeah, didn't do so well at Oklahoma though, so that's interesting. But I think the real draw of this game is Jayden Delora versus Tyler Van Dyke, the 2 quarterbacks. Both of them are eligible for next year's draft, but not this year's draft. Van Dyke, Miami started with De'Aaron King. I don't think they picked Van Dyke right after King got injured. I don't know. Maybe somebody else got injured, but whatever. But
he was next up. It was speculated that Dart might get the nod, but or not Dart. Jake Garcia might get the nod,
yeah.
But Van Dyke basically won the backup job in training camp and was looking every bit as good as he looked. As the season went on. I love Tyler Van Dyke. He's my third rated quarterback in the 23 class. He's not a throw he can't make. In the Florida State game, we rattled him early. He had 2 or 3 turnovers in the first quarter alone, but maintained his composure. The team really rallied around him. Showed that he's really a leader of this team as a redshirt freshman. Can't say enough about him. There's not a throw he can't make. I think the future's bright for him. He doesn't seem as mobile as you like, especially in fantasy. But as far as just passing the ball, he's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, he is. He just got the nod as my QB3 in that class as well. He started, I believe, 10 games, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 games. Started 9 games. Threw 324 attempts. Completed 62.3 of those for 2,931 yards and 25 touchdowns to just 6 interceptions.
So averaging 300 yards a game, essentially.
Yeah, massive season for Van Dyke. Really just a huge breakout. Not many people expected. On the other side, Jayden Delora, he played in Hawaii for his high school ball. So not a highly rated recruit, but kind of surprising considering he was right up there with Tua in terms of Hawaiian high school production. Ended up following Hawaii coach Nick Rolovich to Washington State. Obviously now departed Nick Rolovich. So don't need to talk about that on this show. But Delora did come out as a starter as a freshman, albeit the truncated season was just 4 games for the Cougars. He was impressive, flashed plenty of ability, both rushing and passing. So many people were excited about his season this year. And he, again showed out. 64.5% completion percentage, 2,757 yards and 23 touchdowns compared to 9 interceptions. He's a guy who's probably pretty easily in my top 10 quarterbacks for next year, and definitely has a ceiling to be a top 5 guy for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that their offense is in good hands with him at the helm. Travell Harris had a big season. Calvin Jackson was productive, and Stribling, who we touched on earlier, was able to put together a decent year. I like Delora a lot. I hope he can grow, and I'm excited to see what the future holds. I think this will be a fun matchup with 2 high-scoring offenses, hopefully.
Yeah, and Washington State did just hire a new offensive coordinator. And if you've heard about Cameron Ward, the transfer quarterback from Incarnate Word, threw 72 touchdowns in the past 2 years. His offensive coordinator at Incarnate Word is now the offensive coordinator at Washington State.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we love seeing the air raid back in Washington State, even if it's not called that anymore.
One last player to quickly shout out for Miami, Jalen Knighton, the running back rooster. He's been on an absolute tear this year. Class of 23, 4-star running back coming out. He was committed to Florida State for a while and flipped on us and went to Miami, but I love the kid still, despite that mental error. He's great. He's usually playing himself into the top 6 or 7 running backs in the class, and I think he's got the potential to climb higher with another strong season next year. Yeah.
And then I actually had the running back on the other side, and that is, of course, Max Borghi. Ton of Devy hype after his sophomore season in Mike Leach's offense. That season, he had 817 rushing yards and 11 rushing touchdowns. But the real kicker was 86 receptions from the running back spot to go along with 597 receiving yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. People were saying Max Borghi is the next Christian McCaffrey. I think
he's like amazing season.
I think
it would have to be true so bad.
Yeah, I think they went a little too far with that one, and I think it has something to do with a certain physical trait. Physical trait. They both. Yeah. Borghi, however, his 2020 season didn't go so well. He was injured for 3 of the 4 games Cougars played, and seemingly Nick Rolovich either didn't know how to use him or didn't want to use him. However, after Jake Dickert took over, he really came on strong in the last 2 games. He had 16 rushes for 139 yards and 2 touchdowns against Arizona, and then 22 rushes for 129 yards and 2 touchdowns against Washington. He has declared for the draft, but has not made a decision about the bowl game yet. I think it's one more chance for him to cement his name in the draft. I would really love to see him, play on New Year's Eve in what's basically an island game and, put up 150 rushing yards and say, it was Nick Rolovich's fault. It wasn't mine.
I want nothing more than that as well. Some vindication.
And then, obviously, if we're talking about bowl games, we have to go to the playoffs real quick. Just first of all, who are your picks for the playoffs?
I think Alabama wins it all, right? And I think
against
Georgia.
Oh, I don't want to see an all SEC game.
I don't want to see it either, but I don't think Michigan can beat Georgia. So
I'm rooting for Cincinnati versus Michigan.
I would love that. That would be awesome. I'm here for the all chaos bowl, but the pessimist or realist in me thinks we're getting another round of bulldogs and elephants.
Well, I mean, I definitely think that whoever wins Alabama, Cincy, obviously 90% Alabama on that game. I think whoever wins that game is going to win it all. Georgia just falls apart in big games, and I see it happening again.
I hope so.
Yeah. I love the fact that Georgia football hasn't won a national championship in 40 years, and I would appreciate if that was still the case.
I think we all would.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think Michigan can beat Georgia. Though I don't think Stetson Bennett can win a football game. He can like keep you in a football game, but he can't win a football game by himself.
Yeah, I think the big battle is going to be, the Georgia defense and the suddenly very explosive Michigan offense. They've seemed to have really found a new identity these last few weeks. That huge win at against Ohio State and absolutely obliterating Iowa in the conference championship game. They seem to be a different team, and they're hitting on all cylinders. But obviously, Georgia's coming off a loss, so who knows? Maybe it'll work out in Michigan's favor. But I think that what Georgia showed on the field all year is who they are. I think that the Alabama game is not necessarily a good representation of how good their defense is. I still like them to come out on top.
Yeah, I mean, when I was watching the SEC championship game, I was screaming at my TV to put JT Barrett in the game. At least try it. I mean, come on, Nick Saban did it to you with Tua Tagovailoa. See if you can do it back.
I loved it.
Yeah. So, yeah, but there are not Brock Vandagriff. No. Not good. But there are plenty of prospects in these games, obviously, because you don't make it to the playoffs without talent, and there's some of that talent graduating. Obviously, one of the biggest names is Jameson Williams for Alabama. Started at Ohio State before transferring and has just had like the most amazing season this year. And then alongside him in Alabama is Brian Robinson Jr., the running back. Apparently Alabama is just whoever the running back is next in line to have a big season and go to the NFL. So he's somebody that's like doesn't seem very talented, doesn't seem like special in any way, but he's from Alabama. He could easily go in the first 3 rounds of the draft.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. He's been sneaky good. He's been very productive. I know he's in his 5th year or whatever, and people knock him for that, and it's reasonable. But whether he got the lion's share because of injuries to McClellan or not is kind of neither here nor there. He made the most of it and had an absolutely great season. And yeah, I think that he ends up getting. I don't want to call him a lock for a second round, but it would not surprise me at all to see him drafted in the 3rd round, and I even think it's probably likely. I'm a Brian Robinson Jr. fan. I didn't think I would be coming into the season, but I am.
Yeah, I mean, I had a mid-season C2C startup, and my NFL running backs were very bad, so I got Brian Robinson late just in case it happens.
Looks like a good pick.
Yeah, I got Kenny Pickett really late too.
That's awesome. I traded Pittman on the Colts for Kenny Pickett and Brian Robinson right before they started blowing up. So I'm loving this.
Yeah. And then obviously on the other side, the big name is Desmond Ritter. Plenty of people have him in the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks. I'd put him around 4th or 5th myself. And also on Cincy, you got the running back Jerome Ford. Alabama revenge game narrative for him right there. Obviously transferred out because of lack of touches, but I mean,
Brian Robinson was there.
Maybe he should have been getting touches based on how well he's played for Cincinnati. And then they have a senior wide receiver, Alec Pierce. I dropped this guy in C2C leagues because he was not good at the beginning of the season. But Todd McShay loves him. People think he's going to be one of the top 10 wide receivers drafted.
He's got good size, good hands. He's productive. I like Alec Pierce a fair bit. Would not surprise me at all to see him also drafted in the. I think he's way more likely to be a day 3 player, but seeing him drafted in the first 4 rounds would not be a surprise.
And obviously, first 3 rounds for a wide receiver, you have to take note of that for fantasy. And then the big name for Michigan in terms of graduating players is Hassan Haskins. He accepted a Senior Bowl invite, so he will be going pro most likely. He did really well this season. He's another guy who I just kind of had lying around on my bench in C2C like Alec Pierce, but I did not drop Hassan Haskins, so didn't win anything though, but you know. And then for Georgia, George Pickens obviously came into the season as a top 5 wide receiver in the class pretty comfortably. However, has not been able to play much, but did see a few snaps in both of the last 2 Georgia games. Has 2 more weeks before this game takes place, so we could see him involved. And then the running backs for Georgia, Samir White and James Cook. Cook for sure going to the NFL. He's a guy who wasn't super productive on the ground, but a very good pass catcher. The NFL seems to like him. And then Samir White, pretty much the opposite. So on the ground, not catching much. Ooh, that was good. I think
that killed it.
Oh yeah, that will do us for today. Thanks for listening to, an hour and 42 minutes of us talk. Thank you, Jacob, for joining me today. It's been a pleasure working with you at the Undroppables, and I can't wait to see our partnership continue.
Yeah, I'm excited. Thank you so much for having me on. I look forward to it. Had a great time. And thank you to anyone who tuned in and who is still listening.
All right. See ya.
See ya. Thank you.
There's